सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to one and all. So in the last 5 days we have covered 3 verses. And today on the last day we have to cover 3 verses. So the asking rate is very high. We will play T20. Today is the age of T20. So the first shloka, Shankaracharya ji negated subtle body. Second shloka, gross body. Third shloka, the modifications of the subtle body, the mind. We come to the fourth shloka, where he negates the doership, enjoyership, kartrutva, bhoktritva and karma, all the 3.
न पापं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थो न वेदा न यज्ञाः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
So he says, na punyam na papam. When actions are done with a noble selfless attitude, one attains punya. And when they are done with ignoble attitude, hurting others, harming others, even harming oneself, then that leads to papa. So punya and papa, they are called adrishta phala. The drishta phala is the visible result. So the visible result is pleasure and pain at the body level, sukha and dukkha at the mind level, success, failure, praise, criticism at the intellectual level. That is drishta. We can perceive, or we can know that. This punya and papa is adrishta phala. We don't know. Why it is adrishta phala? Because it depends on the attitude of our action. And many times we are not aware only of our attitude of action while we are doing action. Plus the laws of karma are such that not all results come immediately. Externally, all results don't come immediately. Some take time. But internally, this punya and papa is immediate. Hence we don't realize it. Because we are attached to the external result. So when we say that this person is so good and why is he suffering, this person is so bad, why is he prospering, we are only seeing the limited result in a small span of life. The punya and papa is the real account. So as soon as a good action is done, our account is credited with punya. Immediate. All depends on the motive of the action. Motive of the action determines the merit of the action. It's not the externality. So going by the Mahabharata, the war, if we say that killing is bad, going by general morality that killing will give papa, and so Arjun should have got lots of papa. But the motive with which he did, purpose for which he did it, all that is counted. And the moment an action is done, that punya and papa account is credit. We get a human birth. Please remember, the currency for the universe of the Lord is punya and papa. It is not dollar or euro dollar or rupee. It is punya and papa is the currency. So if we get satsang, it's because of punya of so many lives. We get a human body because of the punya. Punya and papa, they have to come somewhere equal, then human body we achieve. That's what the Shastra says. So punya and papa, they are the adrishta phala, and they accrue to a person who is the doer. The doer of the action is the enjoyer of the result. So if I am the doer, I have to face the result no matter when the result comes. Result is governed by time and cosmic laws. Just because it doesn't come now doesn't mean that it is not there. Externally it will take time to come, but internally already it has started. So this punya and papa, it is an adrishta phala. In the Adhidaivik world, in the Adhidaivik realm, when this is not the only realm that we today have come to believe because of so-called rational thinking and scientific understanding, that what we see is real, what we don't see is not real. In Vedanta we say, such a person is called as a pashu. Pashu means what? Pashyati iti pashuhu. Who believes only what is seen as real is a pashu. We have got a buddhi which can explore into the unknown, which can explore into so many subtler realms of life. So the Shastra says that this is only one realm, Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik level. There is a Adi Daivik level which is the cosmic forces, and there is an Adhyatmic level also. So generally one always says that punya and papa is only at the Adhyatmic level. If the mind is peaceful, that is punya. If the mind is agitated, that is papa. That's a very limited view of life. No doubt, agitated mind we call as papa. There is no doubt in that. But that doesn't mean punya and papa does not exist. Otherwise, what is the logic? Why do we get human body and why does somebody else not get a human body? There is no reasoning behind it. It becomes very random. And we don't believe that universe is a product of chance or random act. In US and in abroad places, they have this they have a nice expression, they like it very much. Random acts of kindness. So you call somebody and randomly do something good for them. You don't know that person also. So this creation is not a random act of kindness of Bhagavan. He just thought and chalo, randomly he made somebody Manusya and somebody animal. No. There is a law of karma which functions properly. Cause and effect is karma. So based on that cause and effect, and what is that cause and effect? It is Bhagavan gave us that freedom when we gave us the buddhi. And he created the Vedic knowledge by which the buddhi can be guided properly to do proper karmas in the world, to attain more punya, to reduce papa, meaning to reduce the doership, to reduce the selfishness, to become more selfless. And the more and more selfless one becomes, one realizes the divine. So he gave us the freedom, he gave us the knowledge. Because freedom without knowledge leads to irresponsibility. One doesn't know how to use it. But with knowledge and with means to control the mind, that freedom can be utilized very well. So he gave us that freedom. And through that law of karma, human being can evolve. No other creature can evolve. They only act based on instinct and impulse. So when we have got that freedom to evolve, we can do good karma, not out of fear that if I do good karma, then only I will go to heaven. If I do bad karma, then I will go to hell. And in the Puranas, you will have different types of descriptions that how you will suffer in the hell. And one will be fried like a pakoda, and then what all descriptions are given there. That is initially to create that fear psychology. Because logic doesn't help initially when impulse is so strong. So then one says, do this will take you to heaven, do this will take you to hell. So avoid doing all that which is papa. But what is the understanding behind it? That let me use this freedom well from selfish, negative actions born out of animalistic tendencies, because we have come from the animal realm and survival of the fittest is the law. So there one has to be so focused on one's own self to protect oneself. Now that is not going to drop suddenly when one comes into human realm. So one will be selfish, one will be insensitive sometimes, one will do negative karma, but the freedom is there to even recognize that what am I doing. That's why dharma, the knowledge of dharma. So when I get this knowledge of dharma, I live with righteousness. That is what is indicated, mantra. When we chant the mantras, make the mind single pointed, calm and quiet. Tirtha, we go to a Tirtha Kshetra to have darshan of the Lord, to get the mind to live in tapas. Before we reach the sthan of Tirtha, one has to do tapas. So again, all that will purify the mind. And what is the meaning of Tirtha? The Tirtha means Tiryate Anaya iti Tirtham, by which one crosses over. What will take us across? Satsang will take us across. Trijagati Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnava Tarane Nauka. Satsang is that boat which will take us across the ocean of samsara. So real Tirtha is the satsang of the Mahatma. When we go to a Tirtha Kshetra, first thing we should find out is who are the Mahatmas living there with whom we can do satsang. Not that first thing we find out which is the 5-star hotel where I will stay, which are the nearby places for sightseeing. Satsang. So mantra, Tirtha, then Veda. The study of the Veda gives us the right knowledge and understanding of the vision of life, purpose of life, how to live life, in what attitude. And Yajna, coming together in a selfless cause, doing something for the sake of the community, for a culture, for the country. All these are the means to purify the mind. They can be done with Sakam Bhavana to get fulfillment of desires, or they can be done with Nishkam Bhavana, that I don't desire anything, I am doing it as a dedication unto the Lord. They will lead to Punya. Person who does with Sakam Bhavana is focused on fulfillment of the desires of the mind and the intellect. That person also gets Punya, there is no doubt. But the Nishkam Bhavana makes the mind and intellect much, much purer, and because the insistence on a desire fulfillment is not there, the evolution is faster. So the person who does this, mantra, tirtha, Veda, yajna, using these, the mind becomes purified, punya increases in life. When punya increases in life, sattva also increases in life. With that sattva guna, this person is able to contemplate on the self and goes beyond punya and papa. So in life our journey should be from papa karma to punya karma. In Punya Karma for Nishkam, through Nishkam Karma, in Punya Karma's evolution is from Sakam Karma to Nishkam Karma. And then go beyond Punya and Papa. How do we go beyond Punya and Papa? When we go beyond this sense of doership, that I am the doer. One of the greatest delusions is doership. Very subtle also, but it is a delusion. If you think about it, that who is the Karta? That's the inquiry. Who am I? Inquiry is that who is the doer? Atma doesn't do anything because it is beyond any modification, beyond time, beyond causation, beyond object, desha, kala, vastu, aparichinna. Body by itself also does not do. It is jada. Body, mind, intellect, all are jada by themselves. So they cannot do. But when this Atma reflects in the Buddhi, suddenly there is a doer who is born. The example given in Vedanta is the hot fire and the iron ball. So the iron ball is round and cold and dark, and fire is very bright, very hot, and does not have a form. Now both these come together, tapta ayasa pindavat as the example. Now if both these come together, after a certain time, it will be a round ball of fire. So the iron has got the heat, light and the form. The iron has got the heat and the light, and the fire has got the form. Both mutually have lent their properties to each other. In the same way, this body, mind, intellect are by themselves jada. They appear sentient or alive because of Atma. And Atma is akarta, abhokta, but Atma appears as though Atma is the karta because the jiva is born. So that mutual superimposition happens. So a person who understands this very clearly and starts inquiring through Jnana Marga and inquires, who is the doer? If I am the Atma, aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. That I am not the bhojanam, that is the world, that is the object. I am not the bhokta, I am not even the doer, meaning I am not the eater, the person who is eating the food. Body may be doing it in the presence of the Atma, but that doesn't make the Atma or the body the doer. Doership itself is a myth. So when a person inquires that way, one lives in that moment-to-moment awareness, not in the doership. It is very interesting. In the Gita you will find, through Bhakti Marg, if we inquire, if we take the Bhakti Marg, we say that Bhagwan is the Karta, Ishvara is the Karta. I am only an instrument. Or Maya is the Karta. Is the Maya doing all this? Is a play of Maya. Or the three gunas are the Karta. Guna guneshu vartante iti matva na shajjate. Or Prakriti is the Karta. The point is not to find who is the Karta, because no action is happening. The point is to understand that I am not the Karta. Bas. That's why if we actually go into the inquiry of who is the doer disappears. There is no doer. That is what this is. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. We don't inquire. And because we don't inquire, this myth called the ego sustains. And if jiva bhav is there, kartritva will be there, kartritva is there, bhoktritva will be there. So one has to go beyond this kartritva and bhoktritva. Then one goes beyond punya and papa. How to go beyond kartritva and bhoktritva? Most difficult path is the path of inquiry. Keep on inquiring. Who is the doer? I am not the doer, I am only the Sakshi. Before I can inquire into Kartritva Bhav, I should give up Bhoktritva. It is not possible to give up Kartritva without giving Bhoktritva, because Bhoktritva is the effect of Kartritva. And we don't want to give up the Bhoktritva. Then how Kartritva will go? How do I give up Bhoktritva? With that Prasada Buddhi, whatever comes I accept. It is a Prasad of the Lord. It is not my karma, that my result that I have got. That's why Shankaracharya ji says in Sadhana Panchakam, Nijagrihat Turnam Vinirgamyatam. Quickly get away from the house. I was waiting for me. Now I got the sanction. I will get out now. Quickly. No, it is not physical. House is the symbol of Bhoktritva, that my karma I have built with my effort and so many years of hard work. House is the symbolic representation of Bhoktritva. He says, get out of Bhoktritva. Because the more and more Bhokta I become, the more and more attached I am to the body, mind, intellect. And the best example of Bhoktritva is this food. That's why Shankaracharya uses this example. He did not say that I am not the Drashta, I am not the Drishya, and I am not the Darshanam. He didn't say that. He used the word food. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. Because ultimately the enjoyership comes down to that. To the food, to the comforts, to the luxuries that I have, and then I get attached to that. So not to be attached to that. Whatever result comes, came by the grace of the Lord. My focus is not on the enjoyment of the result of object, emotion, thoughts. My focus is on how to discover that self. So if I get out of Bhoktritva Bhavana, with that attitude that I am not the Bhokta, either of the two attitudes are good for us. That I am a sadhak wanting to know the truth, or I am the Atma. Either of these two. If we take the attitude that I am the Bhokta, that is what keeps us in bondage. No, is it not natural that after so many years of work, when I have the house, that I am feeling so good about it? That is the reason why we have the house warming ceremony. That is not a party. That is not a feast for everybody. That is to say that, oh Lord, this house belongs to you and I am going to live in this house as your servant. But our case is exactly ulta. House is very big, is my house. Bhagwan, you have a small place in this kitchen, in one shelf up. Every day one diya I will light to you, that's all. So when we do that, so every ritual when we are doing, idea is to reduce Kartritva Bhavana. All the 16 samskaras are like that. So when we start focusing on that I am a sadhak, I am a bhakta, Bhagwan is the supreme, or I am the sakshi, I am not a bhokta, then the bhoktritva reduces. Then kartritva also will go. That I am only an instrument, the Lord is the doer. In the Gita, Bhagwan says a very famous expression, Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Savya sachin means one who is ambidextrous, who can fight with both hands. And such a nice expression Bhagwan Vedavyasa has used there. That you may be ambidextrous and very highly skilled, but still you should know that you are not the doer. The doer is the Ishvara, the Lord. Neither Brahman is the doer nor Jiva is the doer. If at all we want to find out who is the doer, we say that Ishvara is the doer. Bhagwan does. And get rid of this doership, enjoyership burden. It is like a lady who is traveling in the train. She was having one whole suitcase on her head. When the TC came asking that, give the ticket, and he saw so much of luggage she is having, He said, where is your luggage ticket? He says, no, I don't have a luggage ticket. No, but you are carrying so much of weight. He's saying, no, all this is permitted weight which the train is carrying. The extra weight I am carrying on my head, so I don't want to pay the ticket. As a famous example, all of us know. But that's what we are doing. That lady is being carried by the train, so the weight on that lady also is being carried by the train only. But she thinks out of her delusion, no, this is I am carrying. That's what we are doing. I am doing all this karma. That Bhagavan is doing through us. Even what is happening just now, are you and I responsible? If Ishvara did not bring so many factors together, this karma won't happen only. Our contribution, it will be few percentage. Hardly anything it will be. So many factors come together. So when we start understanding this, the essence of spirituality lies in this. Reduce the doership, reduce the enjoyership. Automatically ego will reduce. When we say Swamiji is very difficult to give up the ego, that's because we have not understood the method. What sustains the ego is doership, enjoyership. We have to start giving it up. So, person who starts doing that will go beyond the Triputi. Triputi means this, the experiencer, experienced and the experience. And this Triputi always remains as long as there is a mind. Is there Triputi in the deep sleep? This duality of experiencer, doer, enjoyer is not there in the deep sleep. It is not there when the mind is fully absorbed in the work. So then, it means that as long as this is there, Triputi is there. While living, while doing our actions, we do it in such a way with the bhavana of surrender or of witness. As the ego reduces, there is a sense of emptiness that is there inside. And the more empty a person becomes, greater the things also happen through that person and lesser is the stress. Our condition right now is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So much of work I have to do. That's why Guruji says that few people are tired by work, majority is tired by the thought of work. Why? Because the doership is so strong. But if you see great masters, massive amount of work they do and no stress because they live empty. Bruce Lee also said, what did Bruce Lee say? The usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness. At higher levels, whether it is martial arts or music or art or any form of any field, you will find that emptiness is the crux as we go higher and higher. So the more empty one becomes, aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta. This is the experience of a person even in the state of samadhi. This expression in daily life means kartrutva, bhoktrutva is less. In the state of samadhi, it means it is nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi, there is no duality. In savikalpa samadhi, the mind is absorbed in the object of meditation. But the duality remains. Meditator, meditated, and the meditation, that duality remains, but the mind is fully absorbed. So suppose I am taking the name of Lord Shiva and Shivji is the Ishtadevta. The mind is fully absorbed in the thought of Shivji that I forget myself. But the subtle bhavana that I am the devotee, Shivji is the Lord, and I am in devotion, surrender to Shivji, that bhavana is there. Beyond that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, where there is no form, no name, nothing, no Jiva Bhav only is there. So one goes beyond duality. And that is the state which is indicated. A person experiences that yes, I am. Without words, without thought, without verbalization, without duality. And that cannot be explained through words. That can only be experienced when the mind becomes full of Vishuddha Sattva, meaning minimum traces of Rajas and Tamas. Is more than 90% of Sattva Guna is there. Then the mind automatically comes to that state. There the person experiences that I am that. And that repeated practice of Nirvikalpa Samadhi makes a person established. So to go beyond Punya and Papa, one should walk the path of surrender. Give up the doership. Give up the enjoyership. Then one comes to experience. In Bhaj Govindam it is said, Rathya Charpata Virachita Kantha, Punya Punya Vivarjita Pantha. How does this person act beyond Punya and Papa? Yogi Yoga Niyojita Chitta. He has withdrawn the attachment to the senses, the mind withdrawn. And the mind has become absorbed. Ramate Balon Mattavadeva will revel in that state and lives in spontaneity like a child or like an intoxicated person. So this is the verse number 4 where he negates the entire doership, negates the form of duality which is doer, enjoyer. So karta, bhokta and karma, all the three are negated. Because in that pure self, none of these exist. Gurudev used to give a very interesting quote about this. He said, the unholy wedlock of matter and spirit produces the ego and its monster children. Unholy wedlock of matter and spirit produces the ego. Meaning, the ego is a myth. Matter and spirit cannot come together at all. They are not two actually. But for our understanding we say matter separate, spirit separate. That this Jada is separate, Chaitanya is separate. From that standpoint, there is only Chaitanya Swarup, Atma. There is nothing else. But from our standpoint, right now, attached to the matter, we say that yes, there is a matter, there is a Atma separate. So if both these come together, the Jiva Bhava comes. To surrender that Jiva Bhava is to wake up to that truth. So Gurudev gave us the equation, God plus ego is equal to man. So that infinite absolute truth identifying with this BMI assumes the Jiva Bhava, so becomes a man as though. So God plus ego is equal to man, man minus ego is equal to God. So the individual more and more one surrenders will wake up to the divine. Now let us go to the next one, the 5th shloka.
Mrityushanka na me jati bhedah pita naiva me naiva mata na janma na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishyah chidananda rupah Shivoham, Shivoham.
So he says here, Name Mrityu Shanka, that I don't have any doubts or any fear about death. Name Jati Bhedaha, no differences of caste exist in me. Pita Naiva Me Naiva Mata Na Janma, neither the father nor the mother I have, nor am I born. Na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishya. There is no relative, no friend, no guru shishya also. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. So as long as I am identified with the body, I think I am born, there will be death. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. If there is a birth, if something is born, it has to die. And what is dead will be born again. So identified with the body, birth and death exists. A person who understands this clearly will ask. See, generally we identify with the body and we celebrate the birthday. And then suppose you ask somebody, how old are you? And one will say, I am 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. But that is the age of the body. Who is the indweller in the body? Is the jiva. What is the age of that jiva? 84 lakh species we have crossed and come to human body. Not 84 lakh births. 84 lakh species. In each species, how many births we have taken, we don't know. So what is my age as a jiva? No idea. And here it is so funny in the world, if somebody says, suppose my age is 36 and somebody says 37, immediately I correct, no, I am 36. 1 year. As a jiva, what is my age? Countless. So many lives I have taken. Again and again and again. I have survived so many bodies. Body has come and gone. But I have not got destroyed as a jiva. As a jiva itself, I am beginningless. There is no beginning point for a jiva. So when one understands this, only as a body I have a finite age, I have birth, I have death. As a jiva, I am beginningless. Because avidya is beginningless. So the very question that which was my first birth is a theoretically wrong question. There cannot be a first birth. It is a beginningless, so it is there. When was the first creation? There is no first creation. It is anadi. It is going on. If you want to know more about it, join study class. I can't explain right now. But there's a whole logic to it properly. That why am I a beginningless jiva? Avidya is beginningless. Ignorance cannot begin. And jiva bhava is a product of the ignorance of the self that we saw on the first day itself. So jiva is beginningless, but when the knowledge arises, this jiva bhava ends. And what is the realization? That I was always that Atma which is neither born nor it will die. I am that which is eternal. Eternal means beginningless and endless, both. Jiva is beginningless, but it will end. Jiva bhava will end. Body has a beginning and body will end. Limited, in between is the span for the body. So in Vedanta, when one has understood this very clearly, that's why Gurudev used to roar, in his talks, especially in the second chapter, where the indestructibility of the self is mentioned. Gurudev would roar in his talks. Everybody dies and no one dies. And the people who are sleeping will suddenly wake up. What happened? What happened? Everybody dies and no one dies. 2-3 times he will roar like that. Everybody dies and no one dies. By the time every fellow is woken up and is waiting now, why did he say that? Then he will whisper, everybody dies. No one dies. So the body will die. The Atma doesn't die. It is deathless because it is birthless. And that's why birthday when we celebrate, it is very ridiculous. Whose birthday we are celebrating? It is actually, it is not birthday celebration, it has to be birthday mourning. Why? from the eternal nature of mind, I am accepting and telling that, I am this perishable jiva, please celebrate. Right? From the glory of the eternal reality, I have come down to the misery of the manifest. And that also I am going closer to death every year. So from Vedantic standpoint, birthday celebration is ridiculous. But anyway, Vyavahara, it goes on, so let it go on. If you actually inquire, that's why he says Vedantic seeker questions, that who dies? See, this appears to be a logical inquiry. But one has to do that who dies? Body dies. This body is jada already. It is already dead. There is no difference between this mic and this body. By itself the body is 5 elements, it is jada, it is already dead. So there is no question of body dying. Then does the jiva die? Jiva doesn't die. The jiva goes from one body to another. BBM. You know what is BBM? Few years back, the BBM was a craze. BBM means what? BlackBerry Messenger. BBM. There's a phone called BlackBerry, and there is a messenger. BBM. But as far as Vedanta is concerned, BBM means what? Body to body migration is called BBM. The jiva goes from one body to another, keeps on migrating, BBM. The jiva doesn't die. Body is already dead. Jiva does not die. Atma cannot die. It is beyond time. Birth and death is in time. So who dies? Actually what dies is only our this integrated bundle that has got disintegrated. That's all. There is nobody dying. These three came together. Now they have got separated. By itself this was jada only. By itself this is also jada only. So though logically this is true that nobody dies, and so all the mourning and crying and weeping and all that is only because of our attachment. We don't cry actually for anything else. We cry because of our attachment. And the greater is our detachment in life, pain may be there is no doubt. Even Gurudev cried when this person called Ram Batra passed away. He was a right-hand person of Gurudev. And when he passed away in that prayer meeting, for a few moments Gurudev's voice was choked. He had tears in his eyes, he could not talk. So it is not that pain will not be there. But the understanding is that Atma does not die. The Jiva goes from one body to another. So that Jiva has moved on. In the journey of evolution, the Jiva is going ahead. Yes, we feel the pain, but if we have this knowledge and we apply it, we bounce back faster. This is not to make us heartless, but this is to make us aware of what is the fact and why are we getting deluded. If you read Wandering in the Himalayas, Tapovan Maharaj writes in that one incident, it's a very stunning incident, that when he was walking through the forest, deep jungles in the Himalayas, he was walking through them. One day as he was going through the jungle, suddenly he heard very loud voice, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So he looked in that direction, that from where this voice is coming. And you know what he saw? A leopard is dragging away a sannyasi. He has attacked the sannyasi, is dragging away the sannyasi, and the sannyasi is in bliss. He is saying Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That is the state that Vedanta says that we can lift ourselves to, beyond body identification. If Jesus could say that forgive them, no, they know not what they do, that's because the person has gone beyond body identification. That even at the cross when he is being nailed, He does not have any hatred, he has only compassion and forgiveness for people. So Name Mrityu Shanka, through not only logical clarity, but the efforts in sadhana to detach the mind and intellect from the world of object, emotions and thoughts, from the body, and to abide as the Atma. In the Atma there is no birth, there is no death. So Name Mrityu Shanka. Even Tapovan Maharaj himself, how he dropped the body. So many great masters came to watch him that day. Because he was sick and people knew that very soon the body will drop. So they want to see how does a Jivan Mukta depart from the body. So many Mahatmas came there. Tapovan Kutir. They were staying there. Few days. On that particular day in the morning at 3 a.m. Tapovan Maharaj got up. As usual, he woke up. Got ready. Sat on the veranda. Was having the view of Mother Ganges. He lived his whole life that way. Sitting in that veranda, watching Mother Ganges, abiding in the Atma. So he called his disciple, Sundaranandji was there. So he brought him a cup of coffee and he sipped one sip. And so many Mahatmas who have come to see him, they are still sleeping. He took one sip, kept the cup, and he said, Ishwar ko dhanyavad ho, ab main chalta hu. Gone. Consciously exit the body. That is what our culture teaches us. 8th chapter you read, Bhruvar Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak. Focusing the whole attention here, the person ejects. For a Jivan Mukta, actually there is no birth and death, there is no Tasya Pranaha na Utkramanti. But as far as the body is concerned, there, then one sees that yes, this is how the body drops. So no attachment to the body, absolutely. Just drop, went. So Name Mrityu Shanka, person who abides in that reality, even death is not a threat to that person. We die as victims of death. When death will come, we don't know, we are scared. And death means annihilation, death means sorrow. But through this knowledge of Vedanta, the person has gone beyond. Can even consciously exit the body and gone free, beyond birth and death. Videha Mukti, that is called for a Jivan Mukta. No more the person will take birth again. Becomes one with the self, one with everyone. So Name Mrityu Shanka, Name Jati Bheda. He says, Name Jati Bhedaha. I don't have any distinctions of caste and creed, etc. Jati or the caste is not based on birth. It is a system based on the temperament of human being, guna and karma. And that system is existent everywhere throughout the world. Unnecessarily we have made it by birth, and now that has led to the decline of Hindu culture. It's a big black mark on Hindu culture, caste system. Gurudev always said that caste is good, casteism is bad. Casteism is not good, but caste is necessary. Somebody who is a research scholar cannot be given a clerical job. Somebody who has that much of dynamism to go and lead in the front, lead the army, protect the boundaries of the nation, has that much of valor and courage, must do that job. To make that person do some business or something is not appropriate. So aptitude, what they say today. So based on the temperament and guna and karma, this classification is done, And if one lives according to that, our culture says, Sve sve karmani abhirata samsiddhim labate naraha. In whichever field you are, working in that field with dedication to the Lord, one will attain the Supreme. It is not that only Brahmana will attain the Supreme. None of the castes are higher or lower. They are only temperament based on guna and karma. So the Lord says that. And that applies as long as I am attached as a jiva. So to the Atma, no guna and no karma. There was a disciple of Shankaracharya ji. From childhood, from the time he was born till about 12-13 years, he never spoke. So the parents were very worried, what is this? The child is not speaking. They tried so many things, nothing worked. Finally they brought him to Shankaracharya, saying, please do something, he's not talking. Shankaracharya ji looked at him and he just asked him the question, who are you? And what a beautiful composition came out. He said, Naham manushyo na chadeva yakshaha na brahmachari na grihi na vanasthaha bhikshur na chaham nijabodha rupa Sanityopalabdhi swarupo hamatma. I am not a man, I am not a deva, I am not a yaksha, I am not a brahmachari or a grahasti or a vanaprasthi or a sannyasi. Then who are you? Sanitya upalabdhi swarupo hamatma. That I am that Atma which is nitya upalabdha, which is ever available. Such clear was his knowledge about his identity that I am that Atma which is always present, ever awake, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupatma. I am not this body, mind, intellect. And so much of dispassion that he didn't feel the need to talk. So Shankaracharya ji, when he finished the whole composition, Shankaracharya ji gave him a name, Hastamalaka. Initiated him into sannyas, and he is one of the 4 main disciples of Shankaracharya ji. Why was he called Hastamalaka? Because his knowledge was as clear as the amla fruit on your hand. So clear and crystal is the knowledge that I am that Atma, I am nothing else. So this jati, varna, all that is based on the mind and the intellect, guna and karma, not based on the body. If you go to YouTube and do the search on Australian interview of Swami Chinmayananda. It is there on a channel called Chinmay Yuva Kendra, YouTube channel, where the interview by an Australian professor is uploaded, where they raise this topic of caste, and so beautifully Gurudev explains everything there. Go and see that, because as Hindus we must know that. But we simply think that this caste system is a big problem. Problem is not caste system, problem is what human beings have done with that caste system. Democracy by itself is a good system, but is there democracy in the world today? In our country, there is autocracy. So can we say democracy is bad? No, the human mind is polluted. So go and read that video. So he says, Na jati bhedaha, pita naiva me naiva mata na janmaha. There is no mother, no father that I have. Not that the person is an orphan, but physical birth for the body is given by parents. Second birth, when the Janeyu Samskar is done, one is initiated by the Guru by giving the Gayatri Mantra so that one becomes eligible to study the Veda. Meaning one gets the qualification, the subtlety of the mind to understand the Veda. Again, it is not created to distinguish between Brahmana and others. It is just that to reach, to understand the subtle Vedas, we must train our buddhi. So the Gayatri Mantra is to train the buddhi. So mother and father give the physical birth. The second initiation into knowledge is given by the Guru. That is the second birth, and that's why the person is called as Dvija, twice born. But the third birth, as though, which is actually birthlessness. When the Sadguru initiates one into spiritual knowledge, person realizes that I have no birth at all, I am not born. I am that Atma. So he says, Pita naiva me naiva mata na janma. Sadguru gives initiation. Initiation is what a Sadguru does to a disciple. Renunciation is what a disciple does to himself. That based on that knowledge, I renounce my attachment to BMI to realize that I am unborn. Doesn't mean that one becomes ungrateful. The very fact that I am able to even realize this truth in my heart is because the human body has been given to us by my mother and my father. So one remains grateful to parents. But deep down one knows that there is no mother, no father. I am not born. It also means that the self has no cause. Mother and father means the cause. Self is beyond all cause. That's why if you see the wedding of Shivji, it's very interesting. When Shivji is sitting as the groom, the Purohit asked Shivji that the tradition is that you should tell the name of your father. So Shivji says, doesn't matter, no, you leave it. You continue. He says, no, that is necessary. So he asked Shivji, who is your father? So he says, Vishnu Bhagavan. Then the Purohit says, see, we have to know one more generation before also. So who is the father of Vishnu Bhagavan? He says, I am the father of Vishnu. That Purohit gets totally confused. He says, kya ho gaya? What is this? You would have never understood. You would have never conducted such a wedding. That's to say that the ultimate cause has no cause, is beyond all cause, causeless. So, Pita naiva me naiva mata na janma. Then, na bandhur na mitram. There is no friend or no relative. Friends and relatives are those who support us, they help us, they are with us, especially at the time of difficulty. But the self here has no relative because it is absolute, so no relative. So no bandhu, no mitram, there is no friend because there is no one like the self. That which is infinite is only one. So it is all alone, kevala, one absolute truth. This is not about loneliness. There is bichara atma, no father, no mother, no bandhu, no. What a emotionless life that is. It is not to say that, it is to experience that fullness of infinity. So, Pita naiva me naiva mata janma na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishya. There is no guru and shishya also. See, for a seeker, holding on to this guru shishya sambandha, attachments to all other sambandha one drops. When one drops all the attachments in others, how does one drop? By holding on to the guru. But when the knowledge is given, that duality also goes. It's very fantastic if you think about it. From whose standpoint is Guru Shishya Sambandha? Guru Shishya Sambandha is only from Shishya standpoint, not from Guru standpoint. Because from Guru standpoint, Guru is already the Atma, realized. For Guru, the Shishya also is Chidananda Rupa only. There is no Shishya actually for the Guru. The experience of the Guru is something else altogether. So from the Guru standpoint, there is no Sambandha actually. So Sambandha is from Shishya standpoint, that I am the Shishya is the Guru. Same way, Bhagwan and Bhakta Sambandha is from Bhakta standpoint. From Bhagwan standpoint, Bhakta also is one with the Bhagwan already. So this Sambandha of Guru and Shishya, the Shishya holds on to, gains the knowledge, surrenders to the teacher, tadvidhi pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. So surrenders to the teacher, asks the question, does the seva of the teacher, to ultimately realize what? In that shloka is a beautiful order given. First you surrender to the teacher. then ask questions. Our case is ulta. First we ask questions, one after the other. First surrender, then ask questions, and when the knowledge is got, then do the seva. There the word seva means not physical seva. To live that knowledge, to live as Brahman is the highest seva that one can do to the teacher. Otherwise teacher doesn't want anything else. So when one lives that way, when one has got the knowledge, having surrendered, asked the questions, got the knowledge, then this is the realization that Guru Naiva Shishya. And as a figurative expression, the Guru is thrilled when this happens. That the fulfillment that Shishya has experienced. Bas. Guru doesn't want any other Guru Dakshina. The Guru Dakshina that the Guru wants is only this. That let the Shishya awaken to that truth. That's all. So let us remember this one fact, that the grace of the Guru is extremely important on the path of Vedanta. If there is surrender to the Lord, there is also surrender to the Guru. And those who say that bhakti is not there in Vedanta and Vedanta is dry, they have not understood at all properly. There is bhakti in Vedanta. In fact, Shankaracharya ji says, Moksha Karana Samagryam Bhakti Reva Gariyasi. Bhakti only is the supreme. Bhakti towards the Guru, bhakti towards the self, to do the self-enquiry. And it is the grace of the Guru that really protects us. We should know that. Kavacha Abheda Vipra Guru Puja. The temptations of the world are so many. How much will we fight by our willpower? It is the grace of the Guru and the bhakti of the Guru that we have that protects us. If the mind gets tempted, I should ask myself this question, that if I fall for this, can I look into my Guru's eyes without feeling guilty? If I do this karma, can I go in front of my Guru without feeling bad and guilty? If the answer is no, one should not do it. This bhavana will come only if there is sharanagati, if there is Guru Bhakti. And also remember one more point. Even if one has awakened to that reality, the tradition says, Guruna saha advaitam na kuryat. That in front of the Guru, remain as a Shishya only. Don't behave as Advaitik in front of the Guru. That you are also Brahman, I am also Brahman, we both are Brahman. One has to remain humble. Gurudev himself, if somebody asks him to talk about Tapovan Maharaj, he will become silent. His eyes will be in tears. And one of the best things he has ever said about his Guru, Tapovan Maharaj, is this. When they asked him about Tapovan Maharaj, he said, in whom I became silent. Just think about that statement, what he said. In whom I became silent. A small I, silent. Why? Tapovan Maharaj is that Atma, is that self in whom this small I became silent. That's how he revered Tapovan Maharaj. At another time when they asked him, he said, I am grateful to Swami Shivananda who introduced me to the scriptures and to Swami Tapovanam who took me to the edge and pushed me into the beyond. He always said this entire Chinmaya mission is the glory of Swami Tapovan Maharaj. He himself is an Advaitic master, but he maintained that stand throughout his life. So, na bandhur na mitram gurur naiva shishya chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. On the last verse.
विकल्पो निराकाररूपः विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियगोचरः सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
So he says, Aham nirvikalpoho. I am beyond all duality. Beyond duality here can also mean three types of differences. The differences in different species, Vijatiya Bheda, differences in the same species, Sajatiya Bheda, and difference in one's own self, one's own personality. That is Swagata Bheda. So I am beyond all duality, Aham Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa also means thought. Thought itself creates duality of thinker, thought and thinking. It says Aham Nirvikalpa, meaning I am beyond all thoughts. There's a very nice example Gurudev used to give. You know how he used to teach Vedanta through everyday experiences. His every breath was a teaching. There's a beautiful book by that title, Every Breath a Teaching. So once he was on the platform and he was waiting for one train to come, for his train to come. And before his train could come, there was a goods train which had to pass. So now as the goods train came and it was going, Gurudev was standing, a few people around him. He said, see this, between the two bogies, you look beyond and you can see what is on the other side. So between the bogies is the station beyond. Between the thoughts, you look and you will see consciousness beyond. That our nature is consciousness. Thoughts come and go. Aham nirvikalpa. I don't have thoughts. They come in me, they rise in me, they fall in me. So I am that consciousness. Aham nirvikalpo. How do we know this? When we slow down the pace of thought. If the thoughts become lesser and lesser, then only we will be able to realize this. Too many thoughts, mind becomes disturbed. Nirakara Rupa, I am formless. So in our culture, the beauty is there are many, many forms of the Lord for us to be able to choose one form, which is our Ishta Devata. I call it as MPG, my personal God. From many forms, come to one form. From one form, go to formless. Formless is to contemplate on the same, the Swarupa of the form. So if Shiva is the form, to contemplate on the Swarupa of Shiva as Chidananda Rupa is formless. But the reality is beyond formless also. Where there is these concepts of formless also don't exist. Beyond form and formless, that is our true nature. So if somebody says that, these Hindus are all idol worshippers, they worship in Murti and they worship the form, I am formless worshipper. That is all delusion. Why? Because mind thinks only in terms of form. And we use one form to lift the mind, to make the mind pure and subtle. Formless is not blank. Blank also is a form, by the way. Black, darkness is also a form only. Formless means the concepts of the Atma. Sat, Chit, Anand, Nirgun, Nirakar, Aja, Avyaya, Avinashi. To contemplate on these, that is called formless worship, Nirakar, Upasana. But both are Upasana. Sagun, Sakar also is Upasana, Nirgun, Nirakar also is Upasana. Atma is beyond both. That's why it says Nirakara Rupa. Atma is beyond concepts of the form, formless, and beyond the boundaries of the form. Read the 12th chapter of the Gita, then you will understand. So he says, Aham nirvikalpaha nirakara rupaha. So we have to go beyond form and formless both to realize my nature is that. And that is what the Visarjan is all about. That when we have used the form to go beyond the form and the formless, then we celebrate that the purpose of life is fulfilled, the Visarjan of the form. Sada Vibhur Vyapya Sarvatra, I am all pervasive. Is all pervasive also is different levels. Physically in the waking state, space is all pervasive. In the dream state, the mind and intellect is all pervasive. But in the deep sleep state, there is no space, there is no mind, but Atma still remains. And Atma is beyond deep sleep also in Turiya Avastha. So it is pervasive at all times, in all places, even in waking state, but we are not aware of it. So we give example of space. So Atma is Vibhu, all pervasive, which does not have any limitation of any form, which is there in all forms and beyond all forms. That is the Atma. Vibhur Vyapya Sarvatra Sarvendriyanam. It is pervasive in all the senses, because of which all the senses also function. Sadame samatvam na muktir na bandha. At all times I am equanimous. I don't have bondage, nor I have to seek liberation. Equanimity is of two types. One is equanimity of the mind. In the Gita it is called Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. To keep the mind balanced in all the pairs of opposites is equanimity of the mind. Not to get it disturbed, but to keep it steady. But that equanimity also is temporary, because it gets disturbed by our own vasana, desire. But with that equanimity of the mind, when I contemplate, I come to equanimity of the self, which is the nature of the self. The nature of the mind is not equanimity. Nature of the mind is sankalpa vikalpa. With great sadhana, we bring it to equanimity. But with that equanimous mind, when I contemplate, I come to Atma, which is Samam Brahma. The nature of Atma is equanimity, is peace. That's why it is called in the Bible as peace that passeth all understanding. It is not the peace of mind, it is the peace of the self, the peace of Atma, which doesn't get disturbed even if there is a disturbance in the mind. So he says, Sadame samatvam. At all times I am equanimous. Not by effort, but that is my nature. The nature of the Atma is effortless equanimity and peace. Na muktihi na bandhaha. Bondage, if I feel, is only when I attach to the BMI. Otherwise, as Atma, there is no bondage, so there is no freedom also. So these are the different aspects. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. This is the Anubhava of the great master. For us, these are all the sadhanas that we can practice so that we wake up to that self. Last 6 days, we have had wonderful manan on this Nirvan Shatkam, and also we have done Nididhyasan for a short while. By the grace of the Lord and blessings of the Sadguru, we have completed the text. So we express our gratitude to the Lord and to the Sadguru. I also express my gratitude to all of you who have come here sincerely, consistently, for being an inspiring audience, that you have been a part of my sadhana of Manan and Nididhyasan. So my salutations to one and all. And I also thank Amar Bhai and all the volunteers for giving me this opportunity to reflect on this beautiful text. This is the first time I am talking on Nirvan Shatkam, and I have enjoyed this thoroughly. So I thank everyone. We should chant the first shloka once again as a reminder to ourselves that we will keep reflecting and meditating on this text. Play the first verse. Ahankara Chittani Naham Na cha shrotra jihve Na cha ghrana netre Na cha vyoma bhumi Na tejo na vayu Chidananda
सच्चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्।
We will offer this sadhana at the feet of the Lord. Together, let us chant. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi adyat sakalam parasmai Narayanaayeti samarpayami Narayanaayeti samarpayami Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. For want of time, we have not done our contemplation today, but please go home and you can do whenever you have time. Those of you who want to offer Guru Dakshina, if you are in a hurry, there is a box outside. You can drop it there, take the prasad. Others may come here from both the sides. Please form two lines in the center. As you offer here, you can proceed from the sides. Thank you.